My name is Antoinette Kwofie. I'm Ghanaian. I'm the first female and first Ghanaian CFO for Scancom PLC, that is MTN Ghana, and I'm excited to be on Just for Women Africa today.
Can you tell us about your journey into finance and how it led you to your current role as CFO of MTN Ghana?
My journey into finance started off as a science student. I went to the University of Ghana, studied agricultural economics, and I wanted to work in finance. So I started off at MTN Ghana as a consultant in the corporate finance department. I left there to take an accounting qualification, CIMA UK. And whilst in the UK, I worked with the National Health Service. And whilst there, I learned everybody's job. I took the time to help everyone to learn their jobs. And in the process, I gained skills, which have since remained with me. I moved back in 2007 from the UK, and I worked with Barclays Bank as a finance business partner. I then became the head of business performance and analytics, financial controller, and I ended up as the CFO of Barclays Bank Ghana, a role that I was in for 8.5 years until I decided to take the leap into the yellow waters at MTN Ghana. What has worked in my journey whilst in Barclays Bank was that I sought to be a person of value, and I believe that aided my progress to the top.
Can you share the journey that led you to becoming the CFO at ABSA Bank, Ghana?
An interesting story. I walked into work one day and I realized I was dressed in the same thing as my boss. My boss was on her way to the board meeting. Halfway through the board meeting, she comes up and says she had been asked to act as CEO, and she had put me up to act as CFO during that process. I took this as a challenge and I acted in the CFO role from April 2013. I think sometime around September, October, my boss had a conversation with me to ask me a question, a simple question. She asked me, if the CFO role became available on a permanent basis, would you take it? And my answer without thinking was, hell no, I'm not doing this. First of all, it's stressful. Secondly, I'd been married for about 4 to 5 years. I had a son. I wanted to have another son. And all the expectations, the cultural and other expectations. And beneath all that, I think I also doubted whether I could actually do the job. I thought it was a big role with a lot of risk. And she asked me why, I said, hell no. And I told her that I wanted to have another child. And I thought taking the role would get in the way of that. She didn't say anything. Of course, that was my personal choice. So we ended that conversation and I went my way. Interestingly, 2 weeks later, in the middle of the night, I woke up around 2 a.m. and I was thinking about that conversation. And I asked myself, you're actually doing the job? Because I was double hatting as financial controller and CFO at the time. I said, you're actually doing the job. What's the worst that could happen? And I remembered my mother's words, which said, throw your hat in, give it a try, because if you do not try, you lose altogether. Once you try, sometimes you will win, sometimes you will learn. So why not? So I didn't lose that vim at that point in time. I sent my boss a text message at 2 a.m. I'm sure it's on a list of do's and don'ts in terms of career mistake. But I sent her a text message to say, I've changed my mind. I would actually like to throw my hat in the ring. She called me at 6 a.m. and she said, well done, girl. Go, girl. That's more like the Antoinette I knew. So I went through it. I went through the process. I applied. I competed with other people. And thankfully, I got the CFO role. If I had allowed that fear to hold me back, MTN may not have had me as their first Ghanaian and first female CFO. So go for it, girl.
What does a typical day look like for you as the CFO of one of Ghana's leading telecoms company?
A typical day always starts with me having a long to-do list of all the things I need to get through. And the list gets thrown out halfway through the day because of the complexities of running a large multinational like MTN Ghana. I look after treasury and investor relations. I look after procurement. I look after general services. I look after revenue assurance. And I look after core finance or financial operations, as most people will say. And of course, corporate performance management, which is a management reporting side of things. At my level, I do a lot of stakeholder engagement. So I have a lot of regulatory meetings. I support my colleagues. I do a lot of strategy. I sit on the board of Scancom PLC. And so I do have a number of board meetings. And strategy tends to be at the core of what I do. So every decision I take, every decision I make, I've got to look at what the implications of this are on the sustainability of the business in the long term. There's never a dull day in MTN Ghana, that I can tell you. I've had to act as CEO in my role at a time where we had undersea cable cut, and I had to take some very radical decisions that in the normal course of business I perhaps wouldn't have thought about. But in the line of fire, you rise up to it. I've had to also act as CEO at a time where there was a reported alleged data breach, and we had to navigate ourselves through regulatory waters, through dealing with customers, putting measures in place. So all in all, it's been a great experience. And I have learned, I have grown, and I do believe that the average day in my life as CFO of MTN Ghana has led to me being a better version of myself.
As one of the few women in top financial leadership, how do you view your role in inspiring the next generation?
Well, statistics and research has shown that in Africa, less than 16% of leadership in organizations are women. I believe my role is not just to inspire, but to actually equip. I also believe that it's about visibility, it's about representation, and it's about making an impact. For me, success is not about being the only one. And I know I said I was the first female and first Ghanaian CFO of MTN Ghana. That for me is not success. Success is about being one of many and how we grow that 16% to get closer to 50%. So it's about how I actively create opportunities for other women. I read once that when you get a seat at the table, you bring another seat for another woman. So how do I bring more seats around the table for other women to occupy? And I do this. So I do this in a number of ways. Recently, I led the launch of the Yellow Ladies Network in MTN Ghana. I'm an executive of the Executive Women Network Forum, and I am the lead for Elevate, which is a project in the northern part of Ghana, where we are looking to empower girls and create the mindset and the belief in them that they can actually get to the top. It's something I'm passionate about. So for me, my success at the end of my career would be in how many lives I was able to impact, how I'm able to create that visibility for young women and girls. They need to see leaders who look like them, who sound like them, who feel like them, so they can believe that it is actually possible. And for me, I believe that's what female leaders need to do more of.
What are some common misconceptions people have about being a CFO?
That we have a lot of money. Some way, somehow, whenever you publish results, most people read in there and talk about results. Most people think the money is all in your pocket. It's amazing how many requests I get to be the harvest chairperson in one church or the other. And I believe in giving back, so that's not a problem. But sometimes you get many more requests than you can accommodate. But I believe that we are blessed to be a blessing. So each of us needs to give back our quota.
What advice would you give to young African women pursuing a career in finance or leadership?
I would say own your voice, own your space, own your value, master your craft, and also disrupt the stereotypes. Just do it with grace, with tact, with purposefulness, and with firmness. That's what I would say. Stand for something positive. Be a person of value, and believe that the sky is your stepping stone and not a limit.
Where do you see the telecom and fintech sectors in Africa heading in the next 5 years?
I believe that the telecom and fintech sectors will be subject to a lot of innovative disruption. We all hear a lot of talk about AI and how that impacts the world of work. We would see a lot of AI tools, digital tools. Obviously, in the world of telecoms, we're seeing 5G rollouts across the continent. There will be a lot of, for us, we believe in fiber connectivity to the home. How do we meet our customers where they are? And so there'll be a lot of increased investment in fiber technology, in AI tools, in digital related tools. And I see a lot of investment in the youth of the continent as well, as we look to improve the digital skill level of the youth by providing skills like coding, amongst others.
What legacy do you hope to leave behind in your role at MTN Ghana?
I like to leave things better than I found them. And what I said to my team the first day I came here was, I'd like to leave with each member of my team feeling like they are better versions of themselves compared to where I found them. So I've invested a lot in my people, mentoring, coaching, giving them access to opportunities that are not necessarily always there. And I push them a lot. I push people beyond their comfort zones because I believe that is where you are able to fly. So the legacy I want to leave behind when I'm gone is a fully automated, digitally enabled finance function, which adds value, which leads the organization and doesn't just provide lagging reports. Um, a function which brings a lot of value to the organization. And above all, people who are better versions of themselves.
Do you think mobile money could eventually replace traditional banks, or will the two continue to coexist in Africa's financial ecosystem?
I don't believe mobile money will replace banks, and I don't believe that's the goal of mobile money. Mobile money's goal and objective is to improve financial inclusion. When I first started in banking, the unbanked population in this country was over 70%. And there are many people, especially in our rural communities, who would never have a bank account. However, mobile money has given them access to financial tools, to wallets that enable them, to payment platforms, to lending solutions, to a financially enriched product that allows them to take part in the banking system. And I believe that mobile money will continue to work to broaden the financial ecosystem. It would have a lot of strategic partnerships, which is what we are currently involved in. And it is ultimately to improve the entire financial ecosystem. They will not replace banks. We will, and other fintech companies, we will work with banks to help improve financial inclusion in the country.
How do you manage work life balance as a high level executive?
Interestingly, a young lady asked me this question this morning. I have learned or have grown to learn that work-life balance is an illusion of sorts. And I say this because balance kind of talks about it, it implies a state of equilibrium. I believe that at every point in time, especially in Africa, um, it would it would stuck, so it tilts in one direction a bit more, and you need to decide how you integrate that. There are times that I have had to tilt in favor of my professional life, and there are times that I have had to make a conscious effort to tilt in favor of the family life, because if you tilt in one direction all the time, you will have a very distorted life. So I make time to be with my family. I make time to take holidays and just be there. I try to be present when I'm with my family. And when I'm at work, I give to work fully. But there's a price for every decision we take in our life. And sometimes the price of success requires sacrifice in certain areas. We might just make sure that this doesn't happen on a sustained basis. If not, at the end of your life, you would look back and wonder, what decision did I take?
If you weren't in finance, what other career would you have pursued?
Medicine, actually. I would have loved to be a pediatrician. I love kids. I love the youth, and I love being with them. And I would have loved to improve the health sector.